One Earth cycle is 25,920 years, divided into 12 houses of the zodiac. Each house is 2,160 years. There are four ages: iron, bronze, silver, and gold. This is depicted in the parable of Daniel. Those four ages represent the measure of consciousness within man at that particular time. Iron is the time of darkness and deception. The Egyptians call it Set. Bronze is the return of the gods, the return of light, truth, and the law. Silver is mastership. Gold is ascension. In the beginning we were made perfect and fell into darkness. Genesis 1 and 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. What exactly is this similitude, and why is it so important? It is an unfolding energy that sustains the image from the original energy and power of the first mystery. The first mystery is the Father. So that the imaging and the reflective extensions of the divine nature are not dualistically divided or cut off. We are to toil, struggle, overcome, progress, then reach our highest level of consciousness, returning to that divine image or similitude that is no longer divided and is therefore cut off. During this time, we literally achieve a new eternal body of flesh and blood. Sealed portion. Why is it necessary that we must suffer so? Is it not possible that thou can create our eternal bodies for us, which we can live and give these things to us without suffering and without passing through so much affliction and sorrow? After reaching this level of consciousness, we get very old and weary in wisdom. We exit to higher densities when new souls are coming in to start another cycle. Now that we have laid out the time frame, here is the question. When did we begin to eat meat? There is a spiritual man in the beginning and a natural man or a physical man after that. 1 Corinthians 15 and 44. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spirit body. After the fall, the natural body is to be raised back or regenerated into the spirit body. There is a diet for the spirit body in the beginning. Genesis 1 and 29. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for your meat. Genesis 1 and 29. The diet of fruit and vegetables was created to support the spirit body, who was in the perfect image or similitude of the Creator, where man and woman could maintain and continue to receive influx directly from the divine without external doctrine or symbolic representative. Man would innately know how to abide by the laws of the universe. They would not have to be taught these things. Therefore, you would innately know what to eat and what would defile you. 1 Corinthians 2 and 14. But the natural man receiveth not the things of spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. This is what occurred to Adam and the Adamic seed. And the natural man, the Semitic copper-colored brown-skinned race, specifically, not the darker Hamite. Remember, Ham is not the Negro. Ham is the darker race. Ham, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. Now the Adamic race was cut off from being caretaker or lord of the land. 2 Ezra 6 and 54. After these, Adam also, whom thou madest lord of thy creatures, of him we all come, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. He did not receive things of the Spirit anymore in this state because he ate flesh among other things. The book of Leviticus is the go-to for those who disregard Genesis 1 and 29. They will always refer to this book in an attempt to justify the violation of this dietary law. The distinguishing of the clean and unclean beast in Leviticus was intended for a high Melchizedek priest for the purpose of ceremonies and sacrifice when it was still permitted. There has not been a Melchizedek priest here in our present society for a very long time. The only priests you can identify are the priests of Mahan from the wicked Vatican. Even the Baptist and Catholic priests are but a branch from the same tree. So who is sanctifying this flesh you eat daily? The Melchizedek priests were allowed to eat this flesh at the altar in small portions at the permitted time of sacrifice. There's also a metaphysical aspect to sacrifice that I'll leave for another time. So there is no contradiction in the dietary law, and the wise knows that the universal law is not volatile and it does not change. Genesis 1 and 29 remains the same today. I am fully aware not all of you will be in agreement regardless how clear this is, but I understand there are levels to the human soul. Celestial, the most carnal and deviant, they want to be served. Terrestrial, middle ground. Celestial, they choose to obey law first in its entirety, and they choose to serve. You will absorb or repel this understanding based on your level of progression, and you won't based on your limitation. But it is important to revisit this topic so the carnal reader of the scriptures does not pollute the minds of the sons of God, S-U-N. Our highly spiritual celestial spirits, some who have not walked completely into who they are to be. It is clear in all traditions that the individual souls of high spiritual ascensions do not eat flesh, and if they did prior at initiation, they circumcised themselves from it. Some of the greatest secrets to the mysteries that are told are released in simple cartoons made for kids. In the Avatar The Last Airbender, it gives us insight into the fall of man, his carnal state and his resurgence, due to the return of air, the spirit. The Bible refers to this spirit by many names: Miriam, Hagar, the virgin, the woman, or simply she. This spirit or air which has been taken away is represented in the animation by an air nomad tribe. This tribe was completely destroyed and extinct, which left the other three elements, water, earth, and fire, in chaos, war, and destruction, representing the beginning of the Dark Ages, Set. Except the air or spirit nomads were not all killed. There was one air nomad left behind, the Avatar, who is to repopulate the air nomads on Earth and restore balance. The air nomads were highly celestial spiritual people. When the other nations, earth, water, and fire, were reintroduced to him, the air nomad, to their surprise, he did not eat meat. He only ate fruit and vegetables. He did not want to defile his vessel. The dead carnal man in the Dark Ages deviated from law because he is absent of spirit, air. But at the Passover, the time period in the animation representative of today, this transition period, all highly spiritual celestial beings in their process of regeneration, their first step in their resurgence, the resurgence of air, that quickening spirit, is the removal of flesh from the diet. How do you know where you fall? If this knowledge offends you, and if it has not been received as a seed on fertile ground which you can aspire to and grow, even if you have not already taken this journey and think yourself a highly spiritual being, you are not who you think yourself to be. This step is not what makes a celestial, but it is the first step because the body is to be made a perfect conductor of spirit, air. This is an indication of where you rank among the spirits. Some of our greatest prophets and Melchizedek priests initiated into the mysteries in the Pyramid of Giza in Egypt were to abstain from eating all flesh. It was a requirement. The initiation. No longer did he approach any woman, neither did he eat flesh or fish. The Egyptian Book of the Dead shows us the high priest in the Dark Ages, when man had fallen, still abiding by this law. Even when sending off the dead. Note, dead has two meanings. It had to be done by a high priest who was deemed to be clean. And one of the requirements to be considered clean is to abstain from eating meat. The Egyptian Book of the Dead. For the deceased to receive the full benefit of this text, it had to be received by a man who was ceremoniously pure and who had not eaten fish or meat. In scriptures of the progenitors, forefathers, and prophets, representative of the highly spiritual faculties within man and woman, follow the same law from the beginning, and after their fallen state, then regenerated and found their way back to the original covenant given to man to preserve his vessel and retain divine connection. Adam of the Silver Age, representative of the people of that time, Genesis 1:29. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for your meat. Seal portion chapter 15. And the Father had given them instructions to eat fruit, and they were instructed to cultivate fruit and vine to eat. Seal portion chapter 15. Adam and Eve were forbidden to eat flesh of other animal. Their bodies were not built for this type of nourishment. Enoch, the age of Gemini, the Bronze Age, representative of the people of that time. And at this time, Enoch had established a city in the land of Canaan, in which lived many generations of his children. And they had become exceedingly righteous people, and did not divide themselves into family units, nor did they have gold or silver or any fine things of the world among them. And they ate fruit of the vine and the ground, even those things that perpetuated themselves forever for nourishment. And they ate no flesh, neither did they cook their food. Noah, Gemini transitioning into Taurus, the Bronze Age turning into iron, representative of the people of that time. But flesh which is filled with the life, which is with blood, you shall not eat. Abraham, Taurus, the Iron Age, the Dark Ages, representative of the people of that time. I will announce to you guarded things, and you will see things which you have not seen. For 40 days abstain from any kind of food cooked by fire and the drinking of wine. Seal portion chapter 16, and because ye eat the flesh of the beast, the flesh of the fowls, and the flesh of the fish, ye have corrupted and defiled your bodies, which bodies are not intended to partake of such things. Genesis 17 and 14. And the uncircumcised man-child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off. What would cut you off if you're not circumcised? Leviticus 17 and 14. For it is the life of all flesh, the blood of it is the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, ye shall eat the blood of no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it shall be what? Cut off. Moses, the people of the Iron Dark Age, the time of Aries. The same rule applies. Leviticus 17 and 14. Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off. Proverbs 15 and 17. Better is a dinner of herbs where there is love than a stalled ox and hatred therewith. Daniel, the time of Assyria, Taurus, the people of the Iron Age. Daniel 1 and 8. But Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portions of the king's meat, nor with wine which he drank. The Maccabees, the age of Pisces, the people of the Iron Age. First Maccabees 1 and 63. Wherefore they rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and they might not profane the holy covenant. So they died. They would rather have died than to eat flesh, violate the covenant, and defile their bodies. And that is what they did. Paul, the time of the Romans, Pisces, the Iron Age. Romans 14 and 17. For the kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Ghost. Romans 14 and 21. It is neither good to eat flesh, nor to drink wine, nor anything whereby thy brother stumbleth, or is offended, or is made weak. Luke 15 and 16. And he would fain have filled his belly with husk, that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. What is fain? Fain, to be glad, to be pleased, gladly filled with joy or pleasure. He is representative of the Adamic seed. He is gladly eating the meat which the hybrid races or other uncircumcised nations eat. No man, meaning man and woman in the image of God as they were originally made, the pure blood or posterity of the Adamic man, who has maintained the covenant, or anyone of high spiritual development has recommended or gave you flesh to eat, especially you, the Semitic Negro. The same way the religion you subscribe to today was not yours, but given to you from another nation, the same way your diet has been given to you from another nation. Seal portion chapter 16. And the children of Adam who followed him, which is Adam, were not many as those who followed the order of Benelli, the priest of Mahan. Most people are going to deviate from the covenant, but a small amount decided they would not defile their bodies with flesh and animals or with food that had been cooked. And these were strong men, had much more stamina and vigor than those that followed Satan. Canaan Benelli, which most of you have never heard, is representative of a group, the priest of Mahan, who are confederate in your fall. They are human, non-human, and hybrids. You, the seed of the Adamic copper-colored skin Semitic race, now called the Negro, not the Hamite or the darker race, were made lord of the earth and were to teach others, the darker Hamite, the Japhetite, Gentile, Caucasian, and others in between, the covenant and the ways to eat. But you have adopted the ways of the heathen. So Luke 15 and 16 said he would fain and would have filled his belly with husk. What is husk? Parasitic bronchitis, also known as husk, a disease of sheep, cattle, goat, and swine. Again, this tells you meat should not be eaten. This is surely to happen to you if you eat meat. You become the host for parasites that originally infested the meat you ate, and this is the source of many of your ailments. Last point. Meat has various meanings in the Bible. Meat, a symbol of intellectual food, science, and philosophy for the development of the mental faculties and the acquirement of truth. Meat denotes truth and good. For example, Genesis 1 and 29, it says, let the fruit bearing seed be for your meat. Obviously, fruit isn't flesh. Example number 2, Psalms 145 and 15, the eyes of all wait upon thee, and thou givest them meat in due season. This meat is of a spiritual kind, wisdom and knowledge. All precepts, including Genesis 9 and 3, is not speaking of flesh eating. Now let's put that definition of meat to the test. Genesis 9 and 3, another one of the meat eaters go to, but they lack understanding. Genesis 9 and 3, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Now, ask yourself, how do we understand the Creator and His creations and how they are formed? How do we get wisdom and understanding through these things? To understand the Creator is to continuously be in contemplation, observation of all His creation. That is why the precept says all moving things is to be for your meat, food for your understanding and your growth, wisdom and knowledge, for you to use in your progression, not for you to make your belly your God. You are to study, grow, and gain understanding of them, thus better understanding of the Father. But notice after Genesis 9 and 3, Genesis 9 and 4 clarified the situation. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, you shall not eat. Seal portion 92. Nevertheless, during the millennium, there shall be no more taking the life of an animal for its flesh, nor shall any be allowed to cook their food for nourishment. In the end, the choice will be taken out of your hands. Natural disasters, food shortage, war, disease in the meat will eventually cause you to stop practicing this form of low-level nutrition. To all my celestial spirits, the wicked will say this eternal fast is a lie. Do not let them lead you astray. When Moses threw his rod, the Pharaoh also threw his rod. They will attempt to contradict the word for their personal benefit because they are too weak to change. Apocalypse of Elijah. Hear, O wise men of the land, concerning the deceivers who will multiply in the last times, so that they will set down for themselves doctrines which do not belong to God, setting aside the law of God, those who have made their belly their God, saying the fast does not exist, nor did God create it, making themselves strangers to the covenant of God, and robbing themselves of the glorious promise. Therefore do not let these people lead you astray. You might not be there just yet, but do not turn your nose up against the law. Acknowledge it. Know that you are not there yet. Aspire to it. Work towards it. All praises.